Late afternoon Lagos pressed down like a heavy, restless heartbeat. Cars honking in frustration, street vendors dodging traffic, heat rising off the asphalt in trembling waves. Vanessa Carter moved through the crowd outside Golden Plaza with the polished confidence of someone used to being obeyed. Her gold watch catching the sun as if announcing her rank. Behind her, footsteps. Soft, uneven, too close. "Ma'am, please, I didn't mean to." She spun so fast the crowd flinched. "If you touch me again, I swear." "I wasn't touching you," the old man said, voice trembling but steady. "I'm only trying to pass." The slap cracked through the air like broken glass. People froze. Even the taxi engines seemed to hesitate. The old man lifted his head slowly. And for a brief, chilling second, his eyes didn't look weak at all. They looked aware, deliberate, almost evaluating her. Vanessa felt something shift, a quiet warning she ignored. Because she didn't know the truth yet. She didn't know she had just slapped the one man whose arrival would soon silence an entire hotel ballroom. Like the story so far. Hit like and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more gripping stories. The slap still hung in the air long after Vanessa Carter walked away from the Golden Plaza parking lot. People murmured, phones recorded, and the old man she struck stayed seated on the concrete curb, rubbing the side of his face gently as a soft breeze carried dust across his slippers. But he didn't shout, didn't curse, didn't chase after her. He simply watched her car vanish into traffic as if memorizing every second. That same evening, the city's heat faded into a heavy dusk. The skyline flickered in and out behind generator smoke while streetlights tried their best to stay relevant. Deep inside the penthouse of the Helios Grand Tower, Ethan Rowe, yes, the same old man, leaned against a marble counter, peeling off glue-stiffened gray eyebrows. Piece by piece, the disguise fell away, revealing a man far younger, more powerful, and infinitely calmer than Vanessa ever imagined. His assistant, Jordan Hale, stood a few steps away, swallowing hard. "She hit you," Jordan said quietly. "In public." Ethan didn't look up. "Yes. And we're doing nothing." Ethan rinsed his face, water sliding down sharp features that no longer belonged to a frail stranger. "For now." Jordan hesitated, then asked, "Does she even know who you are?" Ethan dried his face, set the towel down, and finally met his assistant's eyes. "That's the point. I've built everything I own by watching how people treat those they think are beneath them. Today, she showed me exactly who she is." It wasn't anger in his voice, only certainty. And that certainty held more weight than any fury could. The next day, while Lagos buzzed with gossip about the woman who slapped the old man, Vanessa Carter was far too busy planning her own celebration to care. Her engagement party, Golden Heights Hotel, grand ballroom, hundreds of guests, was 21 days away. She floated through boutiques and salons with her friends orbiting her like planets, soaking in compliments, flipping her braids, boasting about her future husband. "He's flying in tonight," one friend squealed. "Did he say what the surprise is?" Vanessa smiled with a confidence she hadn't earned. "Please. Men like Ethan. Their surprises are never small." None of them knew she had never once seen Ethan Rowe without a layer of strategy covering his silence. She thought his quiet charm meant love. In truth, it meant observation. By the time the engagement day arrived, Lagos hummed with heat and anticipation. The Golden Heights Hotel shone like a palace. Floral arches lined the entrance. A red carpet stretched across the marble floor. Inside, chandeliers glittered in patterns that felt almost holy. Guests snapped pictures, whispering about the billionaire fiancé who supposedly owned a fleet of jets. Vanessa stood at the center of it all, radiant in a silver gown that clung perfectly to her ambition. Every smile she gave was rehearsed. Every gesture was calculated. The applause fed her pride like fuel. Then the ballroom doors opened. A figure stepped inside. Frail, hunched, dragging a walking stick. His clothes were torn, his hair disheveled, his slippers hanging on by a thread. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few people laughed in disbelief. And Vanessa's face collapsed into raw horror. You, she hissed, storming toward him. What are you doing here? The old man lifted his head slightly. No malice. No fear. Ma'am, he said softly. I only came. Shut up, she barked, jabbing a finger toward his face. Security. Take him out before he embarrasses me. 2 guards rushed forward. Guests pulled out their phones. Vanessa kept shouting, weaving insults with a kind of desperation that made her voice crack. You think you can ruin my engagement? Dressed like this. Look at you. You shouldn't even be allowed inside. For a moment, the old man just looked at her. Something shifted in that gaze, so sharp, so knowing, that Vanessa actually stepped back, pulse stumbling. Then a deep roar thundered above the hotel. The windows trembled. People screamed with excitement. A private jet is landing behind the hotel. Vanessa spun toward the sound, clasping her hands to her chest. That's him, she whispered. That's Ethan. I told you. His surprises are never small. Cameras lifted. Guests stampeded toward the windows. Outside, a sleek black jet descended onto the private landing pad, engines slicing through the air like a declaration. Moments later, the ballroom doors swung open again. Ethan Rowe entered, young, impeccably dressed. A presence that swallowed the room whole. Conversations died. Even the old man's guards froze. Vanessa surged forward. Baby, you won't believe what just. Ethan didn't touch her outstretched hand. Instead, he raised a microphone, his voice calm but cutting. Good evening. Before we begin, I need to introduce someone. He nodded once. The old man stepped forward. Then, in front of hundreds of guests and dozens of cameras, the old man removed his own disguise, peeling away the wig, the fake wrinkles, the aged makeup, the hunched posture. Gasps exploded like fireworks. Standing there wasn't a beggar. It was Ethan himself. Vanessa stumbled backward, grabbing a table for balance. No, that's impossible. Ethan's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You slapped me, he said. You mocked me. You degraded me. And you did it without hesitation. Ethan, please. You didn't slap a stranger, he continued. You slapped your own fiancé because you believed he was worthless. Her knees buckled, but Ethan wasn't done. For months I have watched you. The charm, the elegance, the sweet words, they were never kindness. They were strategy. What you showed me in that parking lot was your real face. Vanessa shook her head violently. I was stressed. I didn't mean it. I didn't know it was you. That's exactly the problem, Ethan replied. You didn't know who it was. And you didn't care. A heavy silence fell. Guests lowered their eyes. Some recorded. Some whispered. Then Ethan delivered the blow that changed everything. This engagement is over. Vanessa collapsed to her knees. Ethan, I can change. I swear I'll change. He looked at her with a sadness so deep it felt ancient. People don't change when they're exposed, he said softly. People change when they choose to. And you never chose kindness. He turned to the guards. Escort Ms. Carter out respectfully. She doesn't belong here tonight. As they lifted her to her feet, Vanessa screamed his name over and over, but Ethan didn't glance back. He walked away, leaving her voice echoing off chandeliers that no longer reflected her future. Her downfall wasn't quiet. It wasn't private. It was exactly as cruel as the way she treated others. And for once, the crowd did not pity her. They understood. But Ethan wasn't done writing new chapters. 3 days later, in a quiet neighborhood far from the glamour of Golden Heights, he returned to the place where he once found the strength to rebuild his life. A modest community center, filled with children who needed books more than luxury. There he met Maya Bennett, the teacher who ran the after-school program with worn sneakers and tired eyes. When she saw him, she recognized him instantly, not as a billionaire, but as the man she once helped when he visited the center in his old disguise months before. You again, she said softly, crossing her arms. Are you here for another lesson? Ethan smiled gently. Actually, I came to return one. Maya wasn't impressed. So she really did it. The slap. She did, Ethan said quietly. And she proved everything I feared. Maya studied him for a long moment, then asked, "And what do you want now?" "A life that feels real," he answered. "A life built on who I am, not what I have." Maya didn't swoon. She didn't blush. She simply nodded, as if acknowledging a truth she'd been waiting for him to admit. "Then stop testing people," she said. "And start trusting yourself." For the first time in years, Ethan felt the weight in his chest loosen, not because someone validated him, but because someone finally spoke to him without fear or agenda. Meanwhile, Vanessa Carter paid a price far heavier than humiliation. Her brand deals collapsed. Clients canceled appointments. Former friends ghosted her. Even her landlord questioned whether she could afford next month's rent. One afternoon, she tried to return to Golden Plaza, walking with her head low, hoping people had forgotten. They hadn't. Whispers followed her like shadows. "That's the woman who slapped the billionaire." She thought she was untouchable. She learned. Her pride, once her armor, became her prison. But consequences aren't cruelty. Consequences are mirrors. And hers finally cracked open a truth she never allowed herself to see. Weeks later, she volunteered at a shelter. Not for image, not for redemption, but because the silence in her apartment had grown too loud. There, for the first time, she served food to a woman wearing the same torn slippers the old man once wore. And Vanessa whispered, "I'm sorry. For everything." Not to the woman. To herself. Growth rarely begins with glory. Begins with loss. And Ethan Rowe, across the city, finally found peace in the simplest thing he'd been searching for. People who valued character over wealth. But this story doesn't end with romance. Or revenge. It ends with clarity. Because the woman who slapped a stranger lost everything she wanted. And the man she slapped finally discovered everything he needed. And the world. It watched the price of cruelty and approved the bill. In the weeks that followed, Ethan found himself returning to the community center more often. Not for charity, but for the sense of clarity it gave him. The noise of the city faded each time he stepped inside, replaced by the steady rhythm of children laughing and Maya's calm voice guiding them through their lessons. He didn't chase perfection anymore. He simply allowed himself to be present, something he hadn't done in years. Across town, Vanessa faced a quieter road. The spotlight she once craved no longer shielded her. Instead, she learned to move without needing applause, to speak without expecting praise. And for the first time, she listened, to those she once ignored, and to the parts of herself she had spent years running from. Her change wasn't loud. It wasn't instant. But it was real. One afternoon, Ethan stood outside the center, watching the sun cut a golden line across the courtyard. For the first time since the chaos began, the weight on his chest felt lighter. He finally understood that truth didn't have to punish, it could guide. And sometimes, the harshest moments reveal the people we were meant to become. He stepped inside as the door closed softly behind him, carrying that light with him. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to life.